What up, what up, what up? We back once again to the CHGO Sky Show, part of the CHGO Sports and ALLCITY Sports Network. As always, we are presented by CD One Prize Cleaners. Visit chgo.cd1, that's chgo.cdone.com. Once there, you can pick from an in-store coupon or online pickup and delivery coupon options. My name is Christopher Jacob Pennant. I'm here with the man, the myth, the legend, Stephen Pridgeon Garner, the best X's and O's man west of the Mississippi River, and your favorite QB's favorite QB. And as always, we have our producer on the wheels of steel, Super Sarah Victor, in the back. How are y'all all doing?
I'm doing great, my guy. How you feeling?
I mean, as you can tell from that intro, I've had a lot more energy than
For sure. Hey, you got a lot to be excited and fired up about, or let me be specific, geared up about relative to plenty to speak to.
I see what you did there, man. That's a good segue. The flowers are blooming, spring is in the air, and that means one thing: the WNBA season is upon us. Training camp is begun, and the Chicago Sky are to work, as they say. And I know that's what Teresa Weatherspoon has been saying. So we're going to start off the show just like that. And welcome to everybody who's jumping on with us. Daniel Berry Sports Highlights. We see you in the chat. If you got anything to say to us, drop it into our comments here on YouTube. Thank you for following us, or hit us on Twitter at CHGO_Sky. That's CHGO_SKY. Man, like we said, training camp has started. Everybody's going to work. And Stephen, I know you were able to get to not only that, but the press conferences, the introductory press conferences for the new draft picks last week. And there's a lot to talk about already, both from the motor that we've seen on display from Angel Reese and Camila Cardoso, their truce finally being able to play together after being opponents through high school and college. Brena Maxwell's addition to the team and some of the training camp contracts that are on board, including college star Kennedy Carter, who's trying to, really make her way through a crowded W landscape and stick on a roster. So what's jumped out to you in these last couple of weeks?
I think the first thing is the energy. There's a high level of energy and there's a level of excitement that I'm not gonna say didn't exist priorly, but it's just different because there's so much newness. Like it's kind of a breath of fresh air in a sense, but at the same time, it's also very much business oriented. And I feel like there's a positive level of ambiguity around the team. And like Teresa Weatherspoon has mentioned, people have been counting this team out since the Kalia Copper trade. And she said there's no better place than to be counted out, because now you are the master of, whatever perception is going to come from the work that you're putting in. And obviously the work that's being put in started on Sunday with the kicking off of training camp. So I think they're in a good space. I think they're all fairly confident, and now it's time to, see the fruits of their labor come to fruition by way of the work they're putting in training camp as a foundation to come.
Yeah, you got it exactly right. We talked in the pregame or the pre-show about this being a clean slate mandate for the team, a tabula rasa as it was, because this is a new group. Dana is the only player, a rotation player left from the 2021 championship run, and it's Teresa Weatherspoon and Jeff Pagliocca's team to make or break, and the draft picks are a big part of that. And I want to come to Angel Reese first, because even though she was the 7th pick, I think she has a lot of name recognition, both with fans who follow college basketball and people who might be more casual fans of women's hoops and basketball in general. And you were able to get a lot of good info from her, both on what makes her the type of player in person that she is, and also about her skill set. So, just going to the skill set first, what was some of the things that she said about that, as that's translated from high school to college and then now?
Yeah, I think a lot of the attention that Angel gets, and rightfully so, is really coming from the versatility that she has and the anchorship that she showed on the defensive side of the floor, especially in her last 2 seasons of her collegiate career at LSU. I think that's not wrong for people to look at her as a defensive-minded player. I think that's the strong side of the floor for her. And she says so herself that a lot of the times when things are not going her way on offense, she knows that by way of her chaotic defense, she can springboard her offense into transition opportunities. And you mentioned the skill part. That was something I kind of shaped the question around for her, and she went into good detail, providing some more context. So obviously at LSU, she played a lot of center minutes, and really was the anchor of the defense and everything that Kim Mulkey wanted to do on that side of the ball, with her being pretty much the spearhead of everything from communication to schemes and all of that stuff. What she mentioned, which is why I prefaced the conversation with her with skill, was that she wanted to get back to some of her grassroots methods of operating. And she spoke specifically to her playing a lot of wing in high school, and how naturally, if you're a wing, there's a requisite level of handle that you have to have. And she talked about her having that ability to obviously dribble, but just also be able to navigate. And with the high volume of rebounds that she grabs, I think we'll see a handful of moments where she's going to look a little bit like a legend that we're going to speak to later on in the show, with how she's so easily able to transition from grabbing a board and playing a 5 on one side of the floor or playing a 4 on one side of the floor. So when she gets the ball in her hands and she's pushing the pace, she's now looking like a point guard in a sense, just because she's able to get the ball ahead in the advanced passes, or potentially just put pressure on the defense herself by crossing the half-court line and getting the early offense pay touch. So I think those are going to be things that kind of stand out with her, that people aren't necessarily accustomed to seeing from her, or might not necessarily expect if they didn't watch her, to the depths that some other people have when she was in college.
And that's something that we've been talking about, right? About how important the wing position is in this era of basketball, but also with respect to Angel, her ability to push pace and transition, and maybe fill in some of those gaps in her offensive bag, as it were, that could be negated by being able to get out transition, put the defense back on its heels, and get more easy paint touches, or scrambling defenses that leave open shots on the perimeter, right?
Yep, you hit that on the head, exactly. And when you have multiple pieces, like Angel is very, Versatility is just, it might as well be her middle name. She has just so much skill on both sides of the floor. And I think when you have a team that's trying to find their way in a new offensive system with a lot of newness around, what's going to help to connect a lot of those things is a player like Angel, who's able to be multifaceted in the methods that she's able to operate in and be effective in. And I think maybe one of the biggest ones that we're going to see with this team, because I think they're going to be a high tempo team looking to push the pace and up the volume of possessions on the game. And then obviously trying to play off of their defense even more so within that. I think Angel's going to be, again, like she was in college, in the middle of all of that. And she's going to be a driving force for everything that they're going to be stamping as far as the identity goes.
Let's hear from Angel Reese, because, Stephen, you got, like I said, you had the great interview with her at the introductory press conference last week. So I know, Sarah, you've got that clip ready. If you can pull that up, because we can hear from her just talking about that ability to be versatile on the floor.
I think you have a gravity about you, and I think with that gravity comes a spotlight. I'm just curious, what's your how do you define leadership? How do you define your style of leadership, and how do you feel like that impacts your teammates?
I think I'm just very competitive, and I have a winner mentality. Being able to go and practice and want to win every drill, want to do everything in perfection. I'm kind of perfectionist, so I want to do everything at a high level and not really take any time off, because you don't get these opportunities. Like she said, there's not many spots on the team. There's not many places to go. So just being able to be here and embrace this moment and not take it for granted is what is important for me right now.
I think you have a gravity about you, and I think
That's cool, Sarah. I like that bit that she said about being a perfectionist. That's something that actually stuck out to me, because that's how I practiced when I was playing music and when I was working through pretty much all the sports I played: baseball, bowling, basketball, all those. How that, what'd you think about that?
I think any player or any person that's going to be elite at whatever it is they're pursuing, there's going to be like a certain level of crazy. And the crazy is a great thing. And it's a great thing because I think we all know at the foundation of the word perfect or perfectionist, it's quite literally impossible to be perfect at anything. But again, when you have that tick, that craziness about you, and again, that's a positive thing. It keeps you in a competitive state with yourself before anything or anybody else. And naturally from that, you're going to be in a constant state of growing and getting better. The process is never going to get stale. And she's definitely that type of competitor to where she has that tick about her where she just wants to be great. And naturally, like she said, her leadership comes from that, by setting the example, by upping the general level of competition and the up in the general level of confidence that her team has, and not just herself, but themselves as a whole, as a collective unit. And then naturally it permeates into the individuals that are sharing the floor with her as well. And it honestly becomes a weapon. She's been faced with a lot of adversity and speaking on the court with LSU because they were good. I mean, they were great, actually, literally winning a championship her first year there. And kind of with that comes a lot of expectations and a lot of teams that want to take from you because they feel like they are a better team or whatever, but you have to see her on the court. And because of how she's wired as a competitor and as a leader, she makes it to where it's not just about her. She's infusing her teammates with all types of confidence to where if they missed a shot, but they got to stop on defense, she's slapping 5 with them. And then a couple possessions later, now she's able to make a pass to somebody who might have missed the 3. And now they're knocking down that 3 or even just taking that 3 with the utmost confidence. That in and of itself is leadership. And she just exudes all types of abundances in that particular non-playing dynamic of the game. She's got the it about her.
That ever so pursued intangible of the player that makes the other players around them better, right? You know, the Allen Iverson practice rant from back in the day, you know, how can I make my teammates better by practicing? But I think what people lost in that is that AI put himself on the line so much and that the other players around him had no choice but to follow him. If this dude was, you know, 5'9", going into the paint against people twice his size, then, you know, how can I stand back and watch? And I think it's getting that kind of a vibe from Angel. Sarah, what did you think about that? Did that ring true for you? Did that get you more excited about the season?
I have been excited for this season because of these 2 girls that came in, and I've always loved Angel Reese. And I mean, I've been watching her for 2 years now. I think it's pretty incredible that she's on the Sky. And personally, I've never really cared much about the Sky until this year because I was like, oh crap, like we have some really big girls coming in. And so for someone that's 24 and has just really gotten into the women's basketball league, I mean, I'm psyched. I love her attitude. I think we need it.
I agree. I think there's the idea to put the idea of vibes out there, or to maybe think about this as, you know, there's a vibe about the team that is just like upbeat and all that, so well and good until the games start. But I don't want to lose those ideas that you put out there, that she's not just trying to make the people around her better. She's trying to make herself the best that she possibly can be. And that's another thing about it. Like, if you have one person who's doing that, it's good. If you have 2 people that do that, that's great. If you have people who see that and they're like, well, I got to push myself harder, then it's a movement. And I mean that in the most literal sense. It's a movement. And I think there are so many people on the team who are already trying to do that. We don't have the quote, but I know Teresa Weatherspoon was talking about Dana Evans, I think yesterday, and saying that, you know, she is trying to push herself the most that she possibly can. And I think we're going to see a lot of Teaspoon really just like trying to get every bit out of Dana that she possibly can. So I'm really interested to see Dana this season, but as well this entire team.
Yeah, I think there's some overlap between how Angel is able to get the most out of her teammates, and she's shown that, and how we've seen Teresa Weatherspoon do so over the course of her career, as well as in coaching. And obviously now with the context of the Sky, we're going to see even more of it. I think there is going to be positive overlap between both of those 2 in terms of the leadership dynamic. And Dana's going to be a recipient of it, but she's also going to be someone that's able to connect and give that same type of energy as well. Considering the leadership position she's naturally going to be in coming into this season. So I'm definitely looking forward to a handful of things. Obviously, Dana being near the top of that list as well in terms of her evolution as a player and as a leader and as a point guard. But there's just so much to look forward to with this team. You can't go wrong. There's literally like 15 different answers you can go with. And I'm looking forward to speaking more to that and just generally seeing how this team shapes up as training camp ramps up.
There's a lot more that came up last weekend at training camp, and we'll get into that right after we take some time to thank our sponsors. First, that CD1 Price Cleaners that we always talk about. It's that springtime. Easter's past, but Mother's Day is coming up. You know, you're trying to get outside and those patios are opening up. So if you got those Friday nights, you want to look fresh. You have those Saturdays, Sundays that you want to look clean and pressed. CD1 Price Cleaners is the place to go because they have low prices. You save over 30% on your dry cleaning bill by switching to CD1 Price Cleaners. Other dry cleaners where they charge a different price for every garment type, whether it's a jacket, blazer, scarf, winter coat, CD1 Price Cleaners is going to charge you the same price every single time. Even sports jerseys like what my man has on his back wall back there, and the turnaround is quick. They will have your order ready the same day or the next day, where other places take 2 to 4 days just to get your clothes back. And it's a new era. You can get a text when your order is ready for pickup. They do dry cleaning. They will wash and fold your laundry for you. They do blankets, comforters. They will alter and tailor your garments. They will clean leather and area rugs. So I don't know what you're waiting on, but if you're waiting on me to finish, I'm already done. Visit chgo.cd1.com. That's chgo.cdone.com. And once there, you can pick from an in-store coupon or online pickup and a delivery coupon option. That's CD1 Price Cleaners, proud sponsor of the show. Another proud sponsor of the show that I am excited to talk about is Coors Light because the season's coming up. And like I said, those patios are opening up and there's very little that I love doing more than kicking back with a cold beer on a nice patio and watching the sky go to work. And that's what we're going to do this season. Choose chill. That's what Coors Light is. When you see those mountains blue, you know it's cold. And you see that silver bullet on the can, you know it's right. That's what I like to do when it's May, June, July, seeing Dana Evans just swish threes, Marina Mabry get to the paint and draw fouls, Elizabeth Williams blocking shots out of existence. Nothing feels better to me than seeing that and taking a sip of an ice-cold Coors Light. So do yourself a favor when the mountains turn blue. It's as cold as the Rockies. Mountain cold refreshment. Make the most out of the times that you choose to chill. Choose Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/CHGO Dunk. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Steven, you got a chance to chop it up not just with Angel, but some interesting stuff from Brena Maxwell as well, because not to say anything of her time at Gonzaga, but she was kind of the forgotten piece in that draft coming in the second round. But what did you find interesting from her outside of that Allie Quigley quote that she had about players who inspired her?
Yeah, I think what she was speaking to towards the end of her media availability, where she was letting me know that she loved that people knew, well, obviously first, even before that, Jeff Pagliocca and Teresa Weatherspoon both co-signed that they believe that she's the best shooter in this draft. And I mean, naturally, that's obviously people are going to say, but isn't Caitlin Clark, didn't she go? Like, yes. Yes, but there are specific skills within the shooting realm that are very distinct to everything that Brena Maxwell brings, from the quickness of the release to the footwork to the abilities in which she's able to get her shots off of movement galore, screening, all of the stuff that she does off the ball. There's an IQ that comes with it. It's special. It's special. And I actually have some written work and film coming on all three of the guys' draft picks over the next week and some change as we get closer to the start of the regular season. But before I even get to that, just want to make sure people understand the type of sniper that Brena Maxwell is. And her sniping comes in a connective type of way because it garners so much attention from a defense to just kind of hold to account for her. And naturally, you put her around somebody like Camila Cardoso, who's an inside presence that you have to spend extra defensive capital to guard. Now you got somebody like her that's running around off of screens from her. Defenses have to make decisions. Like, what are you going to do? Are you going to fly with her? Or are you going to stay with Camilla and leave her open for 3, which is as good as a layup when she's getting it in rhythm? So she's a glitch for teams to try to have to deal with in terms of their defense. And it comes in just such a fun and frenetic type of way. It's going to be such a positive contrast to the inside presences of Angel and Camilla and Elizabeth Williams and Izzy Harrison, et cetera, et cetera.
Let's go with that Brena Maxwell quote. I know you got that up ready for us because I like what you said there, talking about being a glitch of a shooter and really frenetic activity. Let's go with that.
As far as your skill outside of the shooting and the cutting and all of the things you do with the ball, are there other transferable skills that you feel like will stand out for people that are, like she said, getting to know your game?
Yeah, like I think what you touched on earlier is my off-ball movement. I learned a lot, especially Gonzaga, how to space the floor and kind of distract the defense out, so I can find open spots. I think getting my pull up, both hands in the direction, step backs, off the dribble stuff, and I think my off-ball defense is best.
And what about your pick and roll play? You like where you're at with that specific context right now too, or are you trying to still evolve with it as well?
Yeah, we're working on that. We'll see what happens.
Thank you. As far as your skill outside of the shooting and the,
I like that. And I like what you said about being frenetic, because there's so much of that makes teams difficult to guard when you don't necessarily have a, say, S-tier superstar like what Kalia Copper was. I like when teams say we are going to try and run these teams into the ground, push pace. And what I was really thinking a couple of years ago or last year that the Sky were going to have to do is work more in transition as opposed to trying to get a majority of their possessions in the half court. So I'm interested to see, how that comes about. And also talking about Brena, as we got Kenneth in the chat coming all the way from Lagos, Nigeria. Man, hey, shout out. Appreciate you tapping in with us, man. I want to see who's going to stick on this roster, because not only do we have these top 2 draft picks who we expect to be signed, say 99.95% expect to be signed, but Brenna's a second-round pick. Not every second-round pick sticks. And you have notable players on training camp contracts, including we were talking about Kennedy Carter, who came in so heralded from college, but kind of got caught up in things with her first team with the Sparks, and has been trying to make her way back to a rotation in the league. So where do you think that shakes out if you see anybody who is going to be a key or could be a key in a Teresa Weatherspoon type team?
Yeah, for me, if any of the players were gonna make it off of the training camp deals, it would be definitely Kennedy Carter. And I feel like so much talent, so much talent. I feel like there's just there's a level of leadership that has to be around to corral it all into a way that's conducive to not just production statistically, but conducive to winning. And naturally, what better place than to have one of the better players, one of the best players in the history of the league, somebody who was a part of the flagship franchises that, got everything started with the W, than Teresa Weatherspoon. And for somebody especially that played the exact same position that you're playing, I think all of those things are extremely important. And I mean, with Carter, there's never been a question of the skill. She came into the league 17 points a game, almost 4 assists, all types of buckets, downhill galore, can stop on a dime and pull back and shoot off of pull-ups from there. Definitely has vision to see the court and make passes, even as a smaller guard. So the skill has never been a thing. And I believe she finished second in Rookie of the Year as well. So the talent is not a question. It's just about how can it be corralled into a way that's conducive to winning. And honestly, in a situation where naturally Carter is trying to make statements herself, I think the Sky are in the same boat. So naturally, with opportunity and that similarity in mindset, I think it's a good match. Now, whether she makes it through training camp is something else, but I do feel like if anybody would of that crop of players that they signed to training camp deals, I think she would be one. And then I also will go ahead and say that I believe Brena Maxwell is a shoe-in to make the final roster as well.
That's interesting because, like I said, second round picks aren't a shoe-in. They just aren't. With 144 spots, there's so much competition from new players, veteran players, especially with Athletes Unlimited players who get a second look. I was, not directly expecting that. So I like what you said there. And Kennedy, I want to touch on her. I saw she posted on Instagram, first day of training camp. She said the sky is the limit. And I think she understands that it's, difficult for her. Oh, that's the Candace Parker quote. My bad, Sarah. I don't want us to get to that too early. I think she understands kind of where she's at in terms of her pro career, because you put those stats out there: 17 points and almost 4 assists a game. Shot at 37.5% from 3, too, on 2 attempts per game. She was the total package. And if you look back at those numbers, you could say that there might have been more of an argument for her to at least run dead even in that Rookie of the Year race with Crystal Dangerfield in 2020. But just off-court stuff and temperament-wise is where she's fallen off the radar. And the leadership that could be provided from Teresa Weatherspoon, from an Elizabeth Williams, from those type of players, from a Breezy Turner, from an Izzy Harrison, I want to see how that shakes out, because talent-wise, she is somebody who could put asses in the seats at the drop of a hat, at the drop of a dime, really. Like, it's true. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for players who will elicit those crossovers, who would cross somebody over and just elicit that reaction from the crowd, like, ooh, that's what the team is looking for. That's what the organization is looking for. And if you just think about that from a basketball standpoint, when you have Dana and you have Marina and you have Kennedy Carter, you could go with your backcourt. That's tough to guard, because those are players who can all handle and can all play make. So you could rotate them in and never really lose too much on the floor.
Yes, and I think looking at it as a long-term play, again, we prefaced everything with Kennedy that the talent has never been in question. It's just about funneling it and channeling it into a way that's conducive to winning, as well as the production on an individual standpoint. Looking at the sky, not having, at least prior to this roster being put together, not having the pieces that people would say, okay, they're building around, or not, they're investing in this player in terms of their skill development to help them get to a certain level to then produce for this team. They didn't really have those pieces early on in the infancy stages of this roster being put together. Now you look at it, obviously you have the 3 draft picks from this season, Camilla, Angel, and Brena, but now you can add somebody like Kennedy Carter to that mix as well. Obviously she has 3 seasons of professional experience, but she's still a player that is still raw and you can invest in internally with that skill development. Again, something that Jeff Pagliocca specializes in, and can spot talent and can see talent that just needs to be kind of nurtured the right way. Same goes for Teresa Weatherspoon with her background with the New Orleans Pelicans, and then stops even before then. So I think just having those types of perspectives on things and seeing that these certain pieces can be invested in to ultimately make them better and optimize, what they bring to the table, obviously for the favor of the team. I think Kennedy fits directly in alignment with that crop of players. And again, as long as she makes it to the actual roster, I think there can be some staying power and some true growth to come from that for her.
Yeah. I put out on our Twitter, the CHGO_Sky, about what people were most excited to see this coming season. And we got this one from Zach Noth that I really liked. He wants to see in training camp how coach pulls this team together, how these rooks play, and how the 3 who just came off the Turkish season look. Specifically, asked us, could we do an analysis of Elizabeth Williams, Dana, and Marina's overseas play for us? And that's a really interesting thing. I always like to shout out our man who was following all season long overseas, Ian Carter Hamilton at Iani_CH, because he had some great stuff. And check out his blog on that. But I really did like how Dana and Dana and Lee played together, because I think that's really effective for her growth, being able to play make with a big and work off the pick and roll. But then Marina and Elizabeth's play with Mercine was, electrifying throughout the winter time. So we got a lot of cool stuff to look forward to in training camp. We're not going to do any, record predictions yet because it's too early to see. But I want to see, especially those players that we talked about in this segment, come out of training camp in those preseason games. Kennedy, Angel, and Brena Maxwell, as well as Camila Cardoso, and even Izzy Harrison, who had to take a year off for injury. I want to see how Izzy comes back in together. That's a solid segue into our next segment, because Izzy had a nice repost about how she is now the last person to play under Pat Summitt, left playing in the W, as the legend, the Naperville Hoop legend, Candace Parker, announced her retirement from the game of basketball after 16 professional seasons. And we got to bring in another area hoop legend to talk about this, to appreciate the magnitude of it. Let's welcome in our special guest right now, Eugene McIntosh, co-founder of the Bigs, Mount Carmel alumnus, played with Antoine Walker. I know he had the hat on just to stick it to St. Ignatius and all my people back there. But G, appreciate you tapping in with us, man. How you doing?
Man, everything is good my way, man. Good to see you, brothers. It's been a long time, man.
No doubt.
Likewise.
Shakia Taylor penned a really cool column in the Tribune about Candace's her play, her time in basketball, both here in Illinois high school to Tennessee and the league. And you had some great quotes on that. From your time playing ball to covering it, what have you seen that just makes Candace Parker, as you said, she's not officially from the crib, so to speak, but we adopted her as a Chicagoan?
I mean, well, from the jump, I knew her brother Anthony, her older brother Anthony Parker. So, that was a step in the right direction for her, for her adoption of, official Chicago status. But, just that being in her bloodline, knowing what type of hoop legendary status she already came from, already put her, on a pedestal to become who she became. So, one thing I try to explain to people when we talk about, like, people from the suburbs being acclimated and coming to Chicago, it's only one or three ways that it happens. It's the same thing with that we see with Jalen Brunson, and it's you either play in the city, you play in that public league, or you play in that Catholic league, or one of those tough leagues inside the city, or you play in the circuit. And that's either if you come into the playground and you get it out the mud from the playground, or if you play in the AAU circuit, which became a little more popular after I got out of high school and college. AAU became a lot more popular in the 2000s, early 2000s. So, like I said in Shakia's column, man, this Candace's high school resume, we don't even have to get to what she did at Tennessee and what she did in the W. Her high school resume is really going to be hard to top, talking about consistent back-to-back All-American Player of the Year, 4-time Illinois Player of the Year, back-to-back state championships. It's just a lot to, that's going to have to be done to knock her off that pedestal. So, she's reached legendary status, man. And one thing that, one of her quotes when she left the game saying, she never wanted to feel like she was cheating the game. And I feel like if you're a servant of the game, then the basketball guys will treat you well, on your exit. And I feel like last year was them letting her know that, it's about your time. She did get that ring with the Las Vegas Aces. She got hurt early on, so she didn't play much, but she was able to go on top, with that ring. But I feel like if she had come back this year, I don't know what would have been waiting on her, on the other side. I hate to say, like some going out with an injury or something like that, but she did the game well, so she deserves all the flowers that she's gonna get in these next, few months. Maybe who knows what the W is gonna do for her this season, but she deserves all the accolades she's gonna get.
I think that was all well said. Eugene, obviously with a hoop background, just kind of looking at Candace as the player, I think the way that most teams or most coaches or most franchises want their front court pieces to operate in 2024. Candace was literally doing it in 2004.
Yeah.
And the fact that when she got to the league, or even before she got to the league in high school and in college, she was such an anomaly because of her abundance of skill and versatility on both ends of the floor.
Yeah.
I think those are probably the biggest distinguishing factors that differentiated her from anybody else that was mentioned in the same breath as her. Can you just kind of speak to how she expedited the evolution of women's basketball? And naturally, we saw players on the men's side even doing some of the things that Candace was doing. Just kind of speaking to what you saw, from her, and just kind of in the scouting sense.
Yeah, kind of the same thing I mentioned from the beginning. Being able to, be on the playground with her dad, who played a high level of college ball, and then transferring it down to Anthony as she got a little older. She was able to, kind of play with him and kind of see what his skill set was like. And then, that growth spurt that she had, she was able to implement kind of those guard skills. Like you said, this is 20 years ago. 2004 is 20 years ago. So her being able to kind of implement that early on in her game, and then as the growth spurt happened, it was only right for her to be the first or second woman to dunk in the tournament game and dunk in the W and all that type of stuff, man. So it's it's crazy to see now. I don't want to say she was ahead of her time, because she was able to do some of those things and kind of put that style of making the W kind of that style of play. Like you said, most front courts, when you see players like Asia Wilson, Breanna Stewart, and all of those kind of bigs who are able to stretch the floor, which is something the NBA is doing as well. They're able to stretch the floor, shoot the ball, put it on the floor, finish at the rim, rebound, take it the length of the court. They're kind of, all-around players. And just Candace being the first to do that, I feel like that can't go, without high praise, man. So you see everybody giving her props. Even the young girls, when you talk about the young lady, when you see Angel Reese giving her props. Angel Reese was she may not even been born. She may have been 1 or 2 when Candace was doing this stuff in high school. So for the legend to be able to last 20 years, and it's probably going to last for another 20 years until she's gone, man, I think it says a lot about what she did, again, not just for the W and being one of the Pat Summitt disciples, but early on in high school basketball here, we know about the Cappy Pondexters and Kim Williams and all of those girls that kind of predated her. But she's one of a kind, man. 6'5", 6'6", however tall you want to give her. She was definitely a one of one with that skill set.
Yeah, Gene, I want to talk about that in terms of just her impact on the local scene, as well as we had her career ranks up there in the history of the WNBA. Carly Bell talked about how she was watching Candace when she was young and would go and try to imitate her, like step-through layup. And I remember you talk about grace of the game that made you do things like that, want to go outside and try to do what they did, whether it was Mike splitting the defense for that mid-range pull-up or the things that Candace did. I remember going to a game on press row against the Sparks, and it was the last season, or the second to last season she was there, and I think she was right in the middle of that feud that she had on bubbling under the surface with Derek Fisher. And so the whole game, she hadn't really scored, maybe had like 6 or 7 points. And I thought to myself, well, Gabby Williams is doing a good job. She's locking it down. And I'm on the other end of the court on press row, so like 80 feet away. Candace gets the ball on the block and inside pivots toward the basket. And it was like everything shut down. And I'm like, she's either about to score or get fouled. And those type of players, you only see them once, maybe twice in a generation if you're lucky, where they can do whatever they want to on the court.
Yeah.
So as many people as you've played with, as many people as you've watched, covered as a journalist, or just like hooped with the rec league, where do you feel like her impact falls in the pantheon of Chicago and Illinois basketball?
Well, that's a great question, man. And when you reach, we don't segregate when it comes to Chicago hoops. You know what I'm saying? Like, we all know Cappy played with the boys and dominated just like she did with the girls.
Yes,
So again, when you talk about, you know, we can go back to E.C. Hill if you want to go back that far. I have to tell you my age, but you know, E.C. Hill, Kim Williams, Cappy Pondexter, like these are legendary names that are going to go along with the Antoine Walkers and the Isaiah Thomases and the Mark Aguirres. When we're talking about high school basketball, that's another conversation that we always have when you talk about Chicago. I think that's maybe New York. I'm not sure about LA, but Chicago and New York specifically, high school basketball is such a huge part of your basketball career. It may be even more important than the next levels, the college and the NBA. Because when we talk about, I asked Doc Rivers this when he was coaching the Clippers a few years ago. I said, Doc, because we have the bigs, we have put out our top 10 all-time Chicago players. And I asked Doc, like, can you have an all-time Chicago basketball player list without acknowledging the high school career? And he was like, hell no. You know what I'm saying? So that alone, like I said, what Candace did in high school, maybe Jabari Parker, you know, as far as individual and team success together. But obviously we know Jabari and that Simeon team that won the 4 straight titles, and you know I don't think that'll ever be done again. But as far as like individual accolades and team success, Candace Parker is easily top 5. Now we can talk about Zeke and we can dig deeper, you know, with Zeke and Mark and those guys, Marcus Liberty and those like Jamie Brandon, those guys. But other than that, man, she don't trip. She's definitely in the upper echelon of Chicago hoops, men or women.
Yeah, I think just thinking back on everything that Candace has been for basketball, I don't feel like there's another women's basketball player that's connected both sides as well as she has. Whether that be quite literally her on-court skill attracting the attention of Kobe Bryant, to where Kobe's literally studying her game like he would study Hakeem Olajuwon for his footwork in the post, and then breaking bread with her over the offseason, working in the post. And Candace already abundance of skill, adding that nasty turnaround fade to everything else that she already had. Man. Like that, I don't think there's another women's basketball player that bridged it. I won't call it a gap, but that connected both sides of basketball in such a steady way over the course of her career, like we keep harping on from high school onward. And I think that alone speaks to just the status of legend, the one of one that she is. And you know, how blessed are we to have watched and heard about Candace for as long as we did. I remember when I was younger, for context, I'm 28. When I was younger, grew up in Maywood, still stay in Maywood now. All I knew was Michael Finley this, Michael Finley that. I went to camp with them, all of that. But my mom always made sure that I was well aware of and went to watch Candace Parker play. McDonald's All-American tournaments, all of that stuff. So just being able to see like how well she's just ascended and consistently connected both sides of hoop, she's special. And she's quite literally limitless in everything, whether it be articulating the game to where even somebody with a base level of knowledge can understand things at a deeper level, to talk X's and O's with coaches and players to where it resonates with them, or to literally go out and show you, what she can do. She's a gift to the game. And like Jamal Crawford said, she's the blueprint.
Man, she's only her career is really just getting started, man. You're gonna see so much of her as we already see her on NBA, on TNT, and on some of these broadcasts. Even with the men's fight, the men's national championship, she's a huge part of that. And one thing, don't forget, if y'all don't remember, Candace Parker was the first women's player to announce her commitment to Tennessee on live on TV. So she spearheaded that movement. So like I said, man, this is just the beginning. You're probably going to see her working with all these different brands and just kind of extending and expanding her portfolio, man. She's still got a lot to give to the game and to to the young women that look at her as a role model,
Most definitely. I know Jean, she said that on her Instagram post that she is looking forward to being in the ownership. She said specifically, I want to own an NBA and a WNBA team.
Wow.
She's going in with beach volleyball because I always wanted to ask her this about, did she ever miss playing volleyball like she did in high school? Because she was all conference volleyball player back in Naperville Central for that. So she said she wants to own a beach volleyball team. And she says she's dominating in dominoes too. She says she's coming back because you could tell that Candace is of a certain age and generation when she's talking about slamming them bones down.
Yes, sir.
I want to go back to what you said about not cheating the game, because I think that was just so intrinsic of who she was when she talked about, 10 surgeries, being 10 surgeries deep, and knowing that she wasn't moving the same way that she was and that her foot wasn't in good enough shape to play. I think that when we think about superstar athletes, that desire never really leaves them. Mike, I remember reading an article about Mike where every so often he would start training hard and trying to get back down to his playing weight. And this is when he was like 50, 51. And people had to like tell him, yo, you got to cool out. But that was who he was. Tom Brady coming back to play for the Buccaneers, and then people joking that he's with that Aces ownership group and that he wants to come back and play for the Raiders. And I think where you see it a lot is pro wrestling. I know it's not the same, but those cats who just like they want to keep coming. Like Ric Flair had his retirement match of this year, and he was not Ric Flair that we knew.
Right.
And so for Candace to say that she didn't want to cheat the game, I think that was different. How hard is that? How hard is that for people to really step away when know that the time comes and acknowledge it?
Man, they all say it. They all have their different rendition of it, but it's a hard pill to swallow, man, especially, you hear like Lou Will and a couple of the guys who kind of just let it go the last couple of years. You hear those guys talk about really, the itch for the competition. Even, and I was a high D1 athlete, so when I realized that, even now, when I go to the gym and I hoop 3-4 times a week. Now, mind you, bro, I just had hip surgery February of 23. I got a brand new hip last year. My first question to the doctor was, man, Joe, when am I going to be able to get back on the court? And he's like, man, take it easy. You know what I'm saying? But he's like, you'll be fine. You'll feel like a whole new person. Give it a few months. So I'm saying that to say I feel so much better. But I needed the competition, bro. I need the competition. I can't be in the gym hitting the treadmill and doing none of that. I need the competition. So I can only imagine the level when those guys, just think about this. I talked to Joe Kim Noah. Joe is always around the UC. Now I don't know what he has going on with the Bulls, but he's been around all year. So we got cool with him and Derek and that group. So Joe was just talking about how when you're in, how intense he was. And he's like, man, you have to understand the level, like the psyche of it. It's like when you get done, when you're performing in front of thousands of people on a nightly basis, you have to know how to turn that off. And he said he didn't know how to turn that off, bro. There was no way to turn. There's only a couple ways to turn that off. That's if you want to put it in the air. You know what I'm saying? And kind of that's if you want to be real. That's why they don't drug. That's why marijuana is no longer is basically legal now, because that's one of the only ways to kind of calm yourself down. So I'm just saying that to say, like, when Joe, he put me in a different mind state when he just said, man, people don't understand professional athletes' psyche. We have to be in this zone, and it's so hard to turn that zone off. So, when you retire and first of all, when that check ain't coming in no more, that's the first step in reality. But again, a lot of guys, I mean, and we see it in their physical appearance. I don't want to pay to put guys on blast, but if you guys have seen Raymond Felton or Eric Snow and some of these guys, they kind of just lose themselves because, you know, it was a regimen. It was something you did every day. It was a habit, and now it's gone. And you know, some guys take it better than others. You know, we've seen the full 360 of how that thing works, man. So with Candace, you know, I'm pretty sure it's the same thing, bro. She was ready to go out for year 17 with one leg. Her wife or somebody had to tell her, Candace, just like you said. It's like, hey, Big Mike, man, come on, bro, you 50, slow down, Joe, it's over. So I'm pretty sure Candace had to talk to a number of people to let her know that it's okay. Like, you got so much more to offer. You've given everything you wanted. You've given everything you possibly could to this game. Find some more and there's plenty more ways for you to continue to give. So I can, like I said, I can only imagine what was going through her head and how much it took for her to finally just throw in the towel, man.
Yeah, we were talking earlier about Angel Reese, and I was highlighting and emphasizing what differentiates her is that competitive tick that she has about her.
Yep.
You talk about it's hard to turn that thing on. It's hard to turn it. Once it's on because you're competing at the world-class level to where it has to be at a certain level. Otherwise, your entire performance and naturally how you impact your team is going to fall off. And when you're in a position of leadership like Candace was literally since she came out the womb, or if you're somebody like Angel, you're a barometer for your team and you can't allow yourself to slack in any capacity. I remember she was talking about in 2022 against the Connecticut Sun, they lost the first game in a series they were favored to win. She was talking about how, no, that's on me. I got to be better. I got to up my energy. I got to up my activity levels. Came out in game 2, and she was the first player to get 15, 15, 5, 5, and 5 in women's basketball history. That was in season 15, I think, at that point. Like,
right.
So, like, all of that to say, she won in high school. She won in college. She won in a W. Whatever endeavor in basketball she transitions to next. She talked about wanting to own a team in the W and in the NBA. Don't bet against her. She's going to find a way to win. And compiling all of these experiences that she's compiled over her basketball career, playing on the broadcast side of things, handling with front offices, she's going to apply it all. And whatever team is lucky enough to have her own them, they're going to reap great benefits from having such a competitor and somebody that has that reverence about them, that anybody that comes in to play with their franchise or work with their franchise, starting from the top, there's going to be a standard, and trickling all the way down to the bottom, everybody's going to fall in alignment with it, and her leadership is going to, again, take front and center with it. I'm definitely looking forward to what she has coming next.
No, I agree with you 100%, man. That's, you know, when we talk about these organizations and, you know, the ranking power, it's like, it's just like any other job, man. It starts at the top and it funnels its way down. So, like you said, with her being a winner from the jump, and then let's not even forget about what she did overseas in the Russian league, winning things. What she win, 3 or 4 of them titles, and players like, come on, man. You know, so I agree with you 100%, man. I would bet every dollar in my pocket that she's going to be even more successful as a businesswoman as she, you know, continues her career.
Yeah, we've seen Candace work on the court and off the court. And I think, you know, outside of the fact that she was able to hold her own so many times with them boys on TNT and right the ship on a lot of things when they were getting off topic and she kept it real hoop. I think Candace, to do what she did and come out publicly, like, hey, this is my wife, we're having a kid, after, you know, and keep it in a very difficult time to keep things like that on the low, keep it private, and do it when she wanted to, how she wanted to, speak so much to who she is and the type of person that she is, and how much we're talking about gravity so much in this podcast today, the type of gravity that she has and the way that people are willing to get behind her, follow her lead. So, yeah, somebody in the chat said, you know, they didn't know that volleyball had teams. Like, yeah, man, beach volleyball is a thing, and you're gonna see Candace Parker running the volleyball team, a beach volleyball team, sometime in the very near future.
That's crazy.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen, man.
And she'll win at that too.
That was the one thing I remember. Candace came back, and I'm like, yo, what was it? Especially after she got on Celebrity Jeopardy, and I was on Jeopardy. I was telling people, it's like, yo, me and Candace Parker have something in common. We lost on Jeopardy. We both right here now.
Hey man, salute to you for that, man. I felt like a proud cousin, Joe, when I saw you on that joint. Not once, but twice, man. I was telling all my guys, I'm like, bro, y'all don't know how serious. Like, come on, man. It's my boy on Jeopardy, bro. Bro, if I get 2 answers right on Jeopardy per episode, I feel like a genius, bro. So I'm saying that to say, man, dude, I don't know. I don't know how much. Bro, you're a legend for that, bro. That's all I got to say, man.
I appreciate that, man. And I say that to say this, not to derail. The way that game goes, it was tough. And so watching Candace on there, you can see how frustrated she was when it wasn't going her way. That's another level of competition because she, she's known for what she's known for, but she was on there to win. And she was not happy that she was not winning. So that's the thing that I remember watching that and I was like, yeah, Candace Parker is undeniable in so many different ways. But very much appreciate that, man. It was cool to be on there as a Black sports journalist when you don't see that a lot on Jeopardy.
There you go.
And get the chance to win. Gene, man, appreciate you coming on the show, bro.
Hey man, it's all love, man. We gotta stick together, brother. If anytime y'all reach out to me and I'm not on the Cubs beat or doing nothing more important, say the word, and I'm here, man. We got to continue to bless each other, man. We got out here, and we got to stick together, man. No gatekeeping, none of that, man. It's enough bread out here for all of us, man. Let's continue to share our resources and look out for each other, man, because that's what they do. So it's only one way for us to get ahead, and that's to stick together, brother.
Yep,
most definitely. Follow Eugene McIntosh and the Bigs on Twitter at Stay Humble. That's STAY Humble, and at It's the Bigs at _ It's the Bigs on Twitter and all socials. Please follow the Bigs. Best sports content coming out of the city, this side of CHGO, and all the way around. Gene, once again, thank you for coming on the show. We're gonna have you again soon.
Oh, no doubt, man. Thank y'all, brothers, man. I just want to say, man, I think Candace is just, I don't know, man. Candace may have made her way into my top 5 women basketball players of all time, man. I'm gonna leave y'all with this. My 3 favorite college women's basketball players of all time, and my mama put me on college women's hoops in the mid to late 80s.
Okay.
Teaspoon. How much of a 360 is that? Teaspoon, one of my first as a lady texter.
A dog.
Man, a whole dog, bro. Dawn Staley, I was in love with Dawn Staley with that hair, that little bob or whatever it was she had back in Virginia. I was in love with Dawn Staley at Virginia. And then my girl, R.I.P. Nikki McCray at Tennessee, man. She was another one of my favorites. I thought she was as fine as possible, but she was another dog on that basketball court. So I'm feeling like Candace has made her way into my top 5 now that she's finally on the other side, man. So big shout out to Candace Parker. And even though you ain't officially from the crib, we have definitely adopted you, so you can claim Chicago all you want, my sister.
Oh, Candace been riding with the Bears forever, so she's that's about as Chicago as it gets.
That's it, yep. All right, man. Much love to y'all, man.
Much appreciated. Eugene McIntosh from the Bigs checking in with us. Glad to have him on the show. Look up. Y'all got to look those up. Those are some names from back in the day. Y'all got to know what Louisiana Tech was to 80s to college basketball back in the 80s. Kim Mulkey was on one of those teams. So if y'all don't know Louisiana Tech, you got to look it up. And Nikki McCray with those Pat Summit teams that dominated through the 90s. For everybody who came up and just knows Baylor and LSU and South Carolina, y'all got to understand what that Tennessee-UConn matchup meant. That was primetime TV when women's college ball was not primetime TV. So y'all got to understand what that means in the history of this game.
Yep. And just to kind of round that all out, what a career for Candace, man.
Like, what else could you say?
Dude, anytime I start speaking about her, I can't help but speak to how she dominated at every level. Like, how many people, like, we see so many high level all-time great athletes that didn't dominate to that extent on the high school level and were a late bloomer in college, or some that didn't dominate in college and ultimately found their way to elite status by continuing to work and put the work in consistently. She had it from like off rip. Like, dude, she's such an anomaly, man. She's truly one of one. And I think past the on-court stuff, I think she's such a staple in the culture too of basketball, like off the court stuff. Just a special human being. And you add to that all the intangibles that she has in leadership and all of that fun stuff. Yeah, Candace, I was very blessed to have covered her for 2 seasons when she was here, and have those conversations with her and just kind of generally be in her space and see her work. Special.
Absolutely special. I was trying to find, she took one of those photos that we all took back in the day with that Johnston's background, and I had it on Facebook, I think, and I was trying to find it, but I can't find it because I was going to close the show out with that. Like, Candace, she's one of us. She had to use that soft white background and get all dressed up for the senior photos. But I think it's so cool how she was this larger than life person who yet felt so down to earth, and that we had some people talk about their memories of Candace and put those memories of Candace Parker out on our Twitter. That's at CHGO_Sky. But my enduring memory of Candace is getting that last board in the Game 4 clincher in 21 and running straight to her mom's, over the sideline. There's so many things that happened in that game in that postseason, but Candace went straight to mom's like, we did it. Like, we did it here, at home, where you have so many memories coming. And then that never leaves you. That never leaves you when you're a teenager. You're still a teenager. Even if you're putting up 20 and 15, you're still a teenager. And I think it just felt like the culmination of all of that work to be able to win one, not just win one at home, but to come back and win one at home. As Shakia Taylor talked about, the Sky had the second pick in that 08 draft and did try. They were smart. They tried to get that from the Sparks, but they couldn't put the package together. And so Candace went out to LA, won Rookie of the Year and MVP same season, but then came back and won one. I don't know how many athletes can say that they came back home after a prolonged period of time as a professional and won a championship. The list is probably this many fingers long.
And the context that a lot of people forget, firstly, she came and there were people writing her off. Is she gonna retire? Is she done? She's been a shell of herself. This, that, and the third. And then naturally with the Sky, they're just decent. They're not gonna contend. They can't do this. They can't do that. And when she came back home, one of the first public statements she had was that she was gonna bring a championship back to the crib. And she said it in not a fun-loving, I want to give you guys quotes for clicks and hits type of way. It was an assassin's type of energy behind what she said. Because she, for the first time in her career, she was facing questions from people. Like she's not who she was at that time. And she's only ascended even more from that. So just to see her put that onus out there that I'm coming home not for this feel-good story. I'm coming home to almost like a reclamation in a sense for those that were counting me out and counting this team out as well. She got matched with a coach that had that same type of energy, another dog, and we saw what they did against all the odds. Coming to the playoffs 16-16, the very last seed, had to get it out the mud, literally from injuries and trying to, scrape together those last handful of wins and that win streak that they took to get that final seed in the playoffs, to then having to go against high-ended team with the odds stacked against them, to going against another team that had the odds stacked against them off of betting odds and just general people that were watching games, to ultimately go against the team that finished right above them in terms of being the second team with the second worst record in the playoffs in the Phoenix Mercury, still being against the odds and that because people picked against her. And, you know, put the team on her back, put the city on her back, put the franchise on her back. Legendary status cemented.
You can't say any more than that, man. She's a legend. Like if she wasn't for some reason a legend for doing what she had done in high school and college, and even the pros winning a title, especially having to go through that Minnesota team that the Sparks had been trying to knock the door down on for so long, but then to come back and win another, and then, you know, win 3 championships with 3 teams. You know, how big is that? How big is that to be able to win 3 titles with 3 different teams in the history of this league that has been around, again, 27 years? It's special, and it cannot be understated at all about how good and how impactful Candace Parker has been in the history of basketball. That's going to close our show just about. Let's give some love to our sponsors. First of all, Prize Picks, the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. The easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports is just you against the numbers. So say once we get to this WNBA season, you say, well, Dana Evans is going to hit, you know, over 3.5 threes. All you do is go into Prize Picks, log in, see Dana Evans, 3.5 3-pointers, and you say either she's going to hit more, or you say maybe she's going to be a tough defense or she's going to hit less. And then you see Elizabeth Williams. Is she going to have over 1 block? You say she's going to have more than 1. She probably will. Or less than that.
That's money.
Right, yeah. More than 1 block for Elizabeth Williams is pretty easy. And so then you got your 2 picks, and that's it. That's it. You can pick as few as 2 players, and you get 3 times your bet. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as few as 4 correct picks, meaning that you could turn $10 into $1,000. That is with basketball, hockey, college basketball. And you can enter all of that on Prize Picks. The NBA playoffs has begun, so check Prize Picks for that. The NHL playoffs is going on. The Stanley Cup playoffs is going on, so you can check out Prize Picks for that too. And if you want to play against or alongside some of Prize Picks' favorite players like the Philadelphia legend Meek Mill or Sugar Sean O'Malley, you can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app every single week to view some of the biggest names in the Prize Picks community. On top of that, they offer weekly promotions, like today is Taco Tuesday, and you can select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value. I love using Prize Picks. I've got a few bets in. There's been some days where I've been very close, and there have been some days where I said, hey, you know what, I won, and you can use the power play, so all your picks have to hit, or you can use the flex play, where only 3 of your 4 or 2 of your 3 picks have to hit in order for you to win. So go to prizepicks.com/CHGO and use that code CHGO for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/CHGO and use the code CHGO. Pick more, pick less. It is that easy. Prize Picks. And we also got our sponsor, Chevy, Dodge, and Jeep. Ray, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram, in Fox Lake, celebrating their Jeep celebration event all month long, all April long. And today is the last day of April, which means today is the last day for you possible to get that new 2024 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo Altitude for only $439 a month for 39 months. If that's not big enough for you, if you need more room in the back, check out the new Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited L for $479 a month for 39 months. And at Ray CDJR, you'll always be able to shop one of Chicagoland's largest inventories and drive home with more money in your pocket than you'd expect, thanks to that raised price promise. They will never gouge you, and the price you see online is the same price that you will get at the dealership. Just for listening today, and again, it's April 30th, the last day, you can get a free oil change when you mention CHGO at the service center or mention CHGO when you book online at Ray, Chevy, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram /service, but you have to schedule before today. Go up there, tell them that Chris Penn sent you. Maybe they'll give you a break. But either way, head up north on Route 12 in Fox Lake to Ray, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram because they're the only team we recommend. Again, that's the only team that we recommend. So visit Ray CDJR in Fox Lake or Ray, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram.com. serving the Chicagoland community since 1963. That's going to do it for our show today. We thank you for tuning in. Thank you once again to Eugene McIntosh of the Bigs. And our man, Stephen Garner, is pulling double duty this year. He's covering our Sky, and he'll still be checking in with Kalia Copper out there with the PHNX team on the PHNX Mercury beat. So, Stephen, I know it's already starting up. What you got lined up?
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, I got isolated articles and film sessions coming on. Camila Cardoso, Angel Reese, and Brena Maxwell, just highlighting what they'll bring to the Chicago Sky, how they help to add to the context and stamp an identity for the team and all of that fun stuff. So expect some of that to come rolling out over the next week or really the next 2-week window before the regular season starts. And then I'll be there for practice tomorrow, my first time going to the practice facilities this season. So I'm going to see what's what as far as where they are with their process there. And then, looking forward to going to the first preseason game or the only home preseason game, I think next Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that's going against the Liberty as well. So it'll be a nice little barometer to see where they're at. And then outside of that, just, ramping up for the regular season. We got some exciting times coming with this Chicago Sky team. They got a lot of things to prove and a lot of players that are, needless to say, eager to prove these doubters wrong. So something that Sky fans should be used to. There are going to be a lot of players with chips on their shoulders, including the front office and the head coach and the general manager. So let's hoop, man. Let's hoop. It's an exciting time of year. I hope everybody that tapped in, first of all, we appreciate you. Please leave that like button for us. I hope you all are excited as we are because we got some fun stuff in store.
No doubt. That's going to be on allchgo.com. You can catch Stephen's writings all season long. Again, that's at allchgo.com. And check out our chgolocker.com for exclusive CHGO Sky merchandise. Become a CHGO diehard and you get percentage discounts on that merchandise, and you can tap in with us because we got big things in store. Looking forward to having an in-person watch party for our away games, and we got a lot more content coming for you this season of WNBA basketball. I'm Chris. That man right there is Stephen at StateUS.3. I'm at Quandary Kitten. That's KWANDARY Kitten. And as always, Super Sarah Victor on the wheels of steel. This has been the CHGO Sky Show presented by CHGO Sports, part of the All City Sports Network. Until next time, folks, be good, do great things, and keep your head above the clouds.
We all silly like the mayor.